You are listening to the Mike Riley Now podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRileyNow.com. All right, and welcome to the Mike Riley Now podcast here on the Young Angels of America Network. I am your host, Mr. Mike Riley. I am, of course, joined by my lovely co-host, Miss Charlie Sandy. Say what up, Charlie.
Hi, guys.
Hello. We usually are joined by my girl Cam Robson as well, but she is out doing things tonight, probably because today is an odd night. Oh, by the way, we also have our executive director of the Young Angels of America Network, Miss Brooke Doherty. She's somewhere floating around in the background. She's playing the background. She does it kind of like Puffy a little bit in the 90s, but not really, because Puffy was like always dancing in the video. And speaking of being on video, we are also right here on Facebook Live. If you're on my Facebook page, go ahead and join live, throw a thumbs up, go ahead and comment, call into the show too. We're not all the way live just yet because we don't have the app launched just yet. But you can call all the way live into the show, area code 310-910-9113. We are on Pacific Standard Time, but if you're on the East Coast, we love you too. And yeah, so check us out. And shout out to everybody who is tuning in, not live on the show, on iTunes or Spreaker, or if you are tuning in on Stitcher, or if you're tuning in on iHeartRadio. Yeah, we got iHeartRadio. I love that, by the way. That deserves a round of applause. If you are tuning in from Google Play or anywhere else on the internet machine, we want to really thank you. God bless you all for that. And tell all your friends about it. Go ahead and spread the word. Join us on MikeRileyNow.com, YoungAngelsOfAmerica.org. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And that's enough plugs. That's enough plugs for today. That's enough plugs for right now. So today we're doing a little bit of an off day. Today's Wednesday, February the 8th, 2017. We usually record our show on Thursdays, but tomorrow night I will be kind of tied up. I will be joining the Los Angeles County Young Democrats for an endorsement meeting of our city elections, of those who are running for our city government here in the city of Los Angeles. So shout out to all the candidates. And we're going to talk more about that, the election, for all of my Los Angeles people out there. And this goes for the city of West Hollywood too. We actually had a really cool conversation about how the city of West Hollywood seceded from the city of Los Angeles, and they were the first city to outlaw the declawing of cats.
You can go on for hours about this.
I can, because I believe declawing cats is evil.
Travesty.
Absolutely evil. Should be punishable by death. But shout out to all my vets out there who do that, by the way, who practice that. I don't mean that literally, but tomorrow night we're going to be having an endorsement of our city officials, and as the time goes on, we're going to talk more about local and municipal elections. These are just as important, if not more important, than our national elections. So we're really going to be touching a lot on that. I know a lot of you who listen to the show, to the Mike Riley Now podcast, aren't tuning in from Los Angeles, but if you are tuning in from your local city or wherever you're at, call into the show. Tell us about your local elections if you're having any this year. We're having our mayoral election this year, and it's really important because the reason why I started what I'm doing came from that. It came from back in 2013, our current mayor, Eric Garcetti, was nominated to the city of Los Angeles mayoral seat with the lowest amount of participation since like 1932. He got like in with like 15 to 20% of the vote. Like nobody voted. And the city of Los Angeles is the second largest city in the United States. We are an economic and cultural power force. So for us to be that politically apathetic was very, very dire, was very shocking to me. And that's what really pulled me into doing what I'm doing now. It really changed my life, that whole election. So this one, he's up for re-election, and we're going to see if Eric Garcetti can pull it off again. I'm pretty sure he will. He's a pretty good mayor.
Yeah.
He's not bad. I like him a lot.
I do too.
All right. Well, let's jump into the show now. Man, there is way too much going on in the world.
Yeah.
I feel like this show should be called "What Did Donald Trump Do Today?" You know?
I think that's what the news should be called these days.
Like, that's what the news should be called.
Yeah.
I feel like news outlets have entire wings dedicated to just the
following
Donald
Trump's Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you have the news department, or you have like the weather, sports, Donald Trump, traffic.
But if he has his way, then he is the news. He is the weather.
Right,
He is everything.
He's everything. Like, yes, I control the weather. All those tornadoes, speaking of which. Yeah, I got to send a big heartfelt love out to all my peoples down there in Louisiana who got hit by that crazy storm down there. There was a crazy amount of tornadoes that ripped through Louisiana. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's just like this week is just filled with so much stuff. We're going to try to get, I mean, we only get 45 minutes in the show. We have however many segments we got to cover. But at the end of the day, I really, a lot of people ask me questions about what's going on in government, and it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, a new story happens.
It's hard to keep up.
Hours.
I mean, man. I mean, the nomination of Betty DeVos this week. Oh my God, that was crazy. Kicking Elizabeth Warren off of the Senate floor last night for reciting Coretta Scott King. The executive orders that Donald Trump has signed into place. The nomination of Steve Bannon. What happened in Yemen. The continuation. Oh, not to mention the ban was taken to the municipal court, to a federal court, and was heard in a federal court 4 days after he signed it. And so much is coming up about the Attorney General, Miss Yates. I don't remember her first name, but why she was fired as a result, being the acting Attorney General. And all this stuff is going on. And in the meantime, you still hear this brewing kind of rip and divide that's happening on the underbelly of everything. Earlier this week, a friend of mine and I got into this discussion about sanctuary cities, right? So we're talking about sanctuary cities, and he points me to this study that he found. It was a Berkeley study. I'm going to put it up on MikeRileyNow.com after the show. I don't remember the exact link, but there was a study that was done at the Berkeley College where they polled a couple of Californians, and they asked them some questions about how they feel about sanctuary cities, right? And I heard these conservative kind of talking points, these conservative pundits talking about, they were kind of rattling on about the study, because the study showed that 70-something% of Californians disagreed with sanctuary cities.
Really?
Right. And 61% of Latinos disagreed with them, right? And they were telling me, see, this is what I'm talking about. Even liberal California is on the side of this and this and this and this and that. And the media always only they never report this stuff. They never report the other side of it. They only want to twist it one way. And I said, you know what, you're right. So I went up and I looked the study up my damn self. First of all, when I Google searched it, I find that a lot of the information comes from Breitbart.
They're alternative facts.
But there was a real study that was done at Berkeley College, and it was true. The only problem is this, right? There's a slight twist of everything. First of all, in a state of 42 million inhabitants, that poll only polled about 1,000 people. 1,085 people.
Yeah.
Most of whom were not Hispanic. Most of whom...
The white Americans?
Yes. Most of whom were only talking about one specific portion of sanctuary cities. The portion they were talking about had to do with not the part. See, this is the thing about sanctuary cities, right? Say some person was brought here, some girl was brought here when she was 3 years old by her parents or something like that, something, and she had no control over. She was brought up here, she was raised her entire life, she's a dreamer, she gets raped. She can't call the police out of fear that the police are going to report her to the federal government to have her deported. That's what a sanctuary city protects you from. Now, on the flip side of that, it also has a mandate in it that says that no matter what happens, even if you get arrested, the states aren't obligated to report you to the federal government. What I'm getting at is we got into this whole kind of talk about political correctness. Now, I know you're thinking, like, now where does this go with political correctness, right? Because of that, and I see both sides. I see a side where it's like, yeah, I agree. Maybe some, person who committed a felony, who got locked up, who is an undocumented citizen. And yes, I use the word undocumented citizen because I don't believe, we'll get into this in a second. We'll get into this whole thing in a second. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here. But when we're talking about an undocumented citizen, yes, I agree that if, you know, one of them commits a felony or one of them commits murder, you know, or something like that, they shouldn't just be released without being, you know, reported to the federal government. But at the same time, you know, undocumented citizens have a right to be protected if something happens to them and they need to report it. Right? Now, what does this have to do with political correctness? Right?
Enlighten us.
Yes, let me enlighten you. He started telling me that, okay, whenever I start to get into this argument with liberals, the first thing they want to do is call me a racist. They're saying, oh my God, you don't believe that these people should be here, and man, you're a racist. You're a racist this and you're a racist that. And man, you know what? That's what I'm talking about. The political correctness on the left gets on my nerves. And you know what else? And then he started going off into this tangent about what happened at UC, what was it, Berkeley?
About the
Milo Yiannopoulos thing. I am
Berkeley.
not going to say that dude's last name right. I don't really care. But then he started kind of going off into a thing about that. And then he started, this whole talk about sanctuary cities kind of went off into this thing about liberals are too politically correct, and that's the reason why you lost the election. That's the backlash that comes along against it. And that political correctness spills over sometimes into things that are a little bit more dangerous. Like, you know, his position was your political correctness, you know, stops people from going to college campuses and making speeches out of fear that they're going to burn the college campus down. You know, everybody's being called a racist. Nothing's safe anymore. Now, this particular argument, and the reason why like I said, I brought up the sanctuary cities thing earlier again, was first of all to kind of get us to see both sides of things. But at the same time, I see his point and I don't. Right? I see that now. When it comes to being a politically correct culture, you know, this is something that even liberals complain about, right? Sometimes things get a little too far with the political correctness on the left.
Definitely.
Just a little too far. And I've talked about this before. Even Barack Obama talked about this. Like when Steve Martin came out and said that Carrie Fisher was the most beautiful creature he had ever seen. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, he had a ton of backlash from the left talking about, oh my God, how dare you view her for there's something stupid like that.
Something like her looks, how dare
right,
you.
How dare you.
She's a human being.
Right, you know, oh my God. Or like when George Lopez earlier, I think it was just like the day before yesterday, he was, you know, he's a comedian. He said some sort of joke about a rule in the Latino communities.
Right.
You never marry a black woman or something like that. Big whoop. You know, somebody made a big deal out of it, and George Lopez probably lost his temper because of all this political correctness and like cussed her out and tried to throw her out of the show. Yeah. And like Bill Maher talks about this, and so does Jerry Seinfeld. They say they don't do colleges anymore because the level of political correctness is over the top. I've been the victim of it before. When I was just in DC, I had these like people, we were like trying to walk through this field, and these like during the march, and these people were giving us a bunch of shit talking about, oh my God, that's a sacred field, you're stepping on the flowers. And we were like, right. What?
Yeah. No, I absolutely think that there is an air of political correctness that is way too far. I mean, you know, at school, everyone will be cracking jokes, and I go to a politically correct school. Everything is and they're calling themselves a sanctuary school, funnily enough, now, kind of.
Wow.
After what's happened with the Muslim ban. They're sort of saying if you need a place, come to school. There are people here that will protect you, which I think is very cool. But there is a part where there's a point that you reach where, like, I was demonstrating my horrid attempts at certain accents, and I was doing, you know, American, Scottish, Irish, Welsh, and then I had someone come up to me and go, I think that's really offensive to people in Scotland. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I've never had a Scottish bloke come up to me, but like, how dare you?
Right. I mean, you know, to be honest, on the left, we can lighten up a lot.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's coming from someone who is on the left.
And who's completely on the left. And I'm not trying to, like, badmouth, you know, and we're going to visit another side of this on the other side of the break. But from this perspective, you know, and let's have a conversation about this. Even to those on the left, how do you feel about this political correct culture? I mean, do you feel like there's too much of it that is taking place within our culture that's suppressing people from joining the Democratic Party? I mean, don't get me wrong, that's not the only thing. You know, the right has their whole list of shit that they try to give calling us crybabies and everything else. But,
we have shit too.
But we have our shit too.
Listening to the
We'll be right
Rally
back.
Now podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRallyNow.com.
That's what I'm talking about. We are right here. The Mike Rally Now podcast here on the Young Angels of America Network. Look, Mom, I am on Facebook. You know what I mean? I am on Facebook Live. Soon, we're going to do our Instagram Live. We're going to be on Periscope. I'm trying to set up like multiple angles around this mug, so that way
get all my best shots.
You get all the best. You can see every side of me. That way you can do your thing. And soon we're going to be launching our app. It's going to be available to you in the Apple App Store. They're doing they're doing a thing called App-pocalypse right now, where they're renovating a lot of the apps. So I'm going to wait till after that's done, and then I'm going to launch the app. Because I don't want to launch the app and it doesn't work or whatever. But y'all can also call in too, 310-910-9113. Let's talk. Let's get it out. And you can also log on to MikeRallyNow.com and YoungAngelsOfAmerica.org and CharlieSandy.net. Nope, I'm just joking. That one's not real, but it will be real one day.
Guys.
It's in progress. We are building that joint. But let's continue this conversation about political correctness a little bit. Now, let's talk about the flip side of this a little bit, right? Why is it that we as liberals now feel like we can protest? Now, I'm not big on protesting myself, but when I see people on the right refer to us as crybabies, as whiners, as libtards, and all this other crap, which is, okay, you want to go at it? Let's go at it.
Yeah, exactly.
We can go at it. But, what's our motive behind our political correctness a little bit? I mentioned on this show before that I think we are starting to dig ourselves into a culture, and this is something I think capitalism kind of produces on its own, where we're starting to lose the fundamental ability of empathy, of lacking empathy for another human being. When Donald Trump sits up there and makes fun of a disabled reporter and we complain about it, do you feel like that's political correctness?
Or do you think that's being a basic, decent human? Right.
I mean, how would you feel if
someone mocked you to millions of people watching?
Right. And that idea, if you had somebody, and I understand people say they're just words and you should let free speech kind of do its thing. I agree. Free speech is free speech. But at the end of the day, when you have someone on television spouting out things about women, about particular minority groups like gay or homosexual, lesbian, or whatever, people who have disabilities, they're sitting here saying these things, and then when we lash back out, not we, but we.
Yeah.
When people lash back out and you argue that it's political correctness, when we, that particular mantra, I think, kills the whole conversation altogether, because then it leaves too much of a gray area.
I think a lot of the time what is considered political correctness is just empathy.
Right.
Or at least, an attempt at empathy, even if it's not fully there. You have people that will argue something not wholeheartedly, but will argue it because they think their side should do it. Liberals think this is wrong, so I will argue as well that this is wrong. And you might not believe that it's wrong, but I think liberals, since Republicans seem to have this, I don't want to say lack of empathy, because that's not fully
It's
correct.
hard not to call it that.
No, it's true. It's because I'm sure they have empathy with people like them.
Right.
But there's this, I think, lack of, maybe not empathy, but understanding. It's this.
But what is empathy, though? Empathy is the ability to put yourself in somebody else's moccasins for a second, right? To see things, to walk a mile in their shoes.
Yeah.
To see things from their perspective.
And I think they're just not willing to.
I mean,
I think that's the situation.
Take healthcare, for example. Take we're going to talk about this on the other side of the other break, but, we had this big debate with Ted Cruz and Bernie Sanders last night where they were talking about healthcare, and Bernie Sanders asked him a straight fundamental question. Do you think healthcare is a right or a privilege? Pretty much. And for him to say, well, if, in so many words, Ted Cruz said, if you just can't afford it, you just can't have it. Where is the empathy there? And when somebody comes out and just to kind of get back to the political correct culture for a second here, and I understand some people are a little oversensitive about things, but if you are underlying, like what we were talking about immigration earlier with the sanctuary cities, and you're saying, well, these people don't deserve to be here, and somebody calls you a racist or something like that, and you say, well, that's just you being politically correct. Look at it from the other side. Look at it from the empathetic point of view.
Imagine if you were being told you don't belong here, you can't be here, you're not worth being here, you're not on the same level of a human being as I am.
You're not welcome here. Imagine how you would feel. That Budweiser commercial that caused all that hoopla about the German during the Super Bowl that passed this. We didn't talk about the Super Bowl. This isn't a sports program, but yeah, go Falcons.
I don't know. I won $20 by getting the Patriots to win.
Lady Gaga did her thing, but I saw it on The Simpsons before. But that Budweiser commercial about that immigrant who came here from Germany, and people were giving him a bunch of, and then before you knew it, there was this huge campaign about hashtag boycott Budweiser because, oh my God, you're political correctness. You're giving in to the immigrants. You just hate Donald Trump. The media just wants to win. Wait a minute.
I mean, they do realize that like a great majority of our founding fathers were immigrants, right?
Well, and that's another thing I think they're not empathetic with. I said it last week on this program. Political correctness, by the way, does go both ways.
Oh,
Republicans
absolutely.
are extremely politically correct too, because they don't really say what they really mean. Not all Republicans.
They use alternative facts.
But they use alternative. Like, for example, when you're talking about where we don't want these immigrants here, which particular immigrants are you talking about? You're not talking about the Charlie type of immigrants.
You're not kicking me out.
You're not kicking her out. But if they come from south of the border, or if they look like they come from a Muslim country, now we got a problem with them.
Yeah, they're not willing to use the term Muslim ban, despite the fact that it is a Muslim ban.
Or you just won't come out and say, I don't like seeing all these Mexicans around here.
Yeah, because I would argue, if you're willing to kick them out, then I'm walking out with them. Because I think what I've seen with this immigrant ban that's happened is there are people like me that are immigrants from a country that isn't on the roster or on the register as one that's not allowed in. And I've seen shock and horror come from these people who can feel so deeply how it would feel if it just turned on them suddenly.
Right.
If England did something wrong in the next, couple months and suddenly I was deported, I can't imagine taking every single aspect of the life that I've grown up with. I didn't choose to move to America, but I'm so goddamn lucky that I have. I found so many things that I don't think I would have found in England. I was 4. I know you can't imagine it because of the whole accent thing, but I was 4 when I moved. And to be told because of something as silly as where I was born or what my religion is, what my parents' religion was, I'm no longer entitled to the life that I've spent 10 years living.
Right. And that's a story that is very common, Charlie, the one that you have. And I mean, do you feel like you're privileged? Because, if you were Hispanic right now, or if you were somebody who was is from Islamic country or something like that, and I had a friend who's from Iran, and she would go back and visit her grandmother all the time, and she was born there. She was raised here, but she was born there. Can you imagine if she went back home to visit her grandmother now? She wouldn't be able to come back home.
Yeah, and to answer your question,
now,
I feel so privileged, and it's hard to articulate, but I don't want to feel privileged because I think I shouldn't feel privileged because there shouldn't be a privilege for me to take. It should be equal for everyone.
Everybody.
There shouldn't be I feel unprivileged or privileged. It's ridiculous.
And that's the thing about this idea behind political correctness is that, it gets a little over the top on the left, but at the same time, the right, and I hate to use the terms left and right, but you know what I mean. And all the people in the middle it really boils down to, do we have a basic feeling of oneness with our fellow people, with our fellow man, with our fellow woman, with our fellow human beings? And from my perspective, as far as sanctuary cities go, usually these sanctuary cities are usually just targeting people from who are Hispanic, and that's usually who they're talking about. Very few people from Asia or Europe or Australia get deported, probably. And I've said it before, the Hispanic people on this continent are the descendants of the indigenous people who were here before. So they're not the immigrants.
Yeah, you want to kick anyone out.
So that's why they're not really illegal aliens, in my opinion. Soak on that for a minute. All right, y'all. This is the Mike Riley Now podcast. We are all the way live on the Young Angels of America Network, and we will be right back.
You are listening to the Mike Riley Now podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRileyNow.com.
Daddy, what's your taxes paid for?
Oh, why, everything. Policemen, trees, sunshine. And let's not forget the folks who just don't feel like working, God bless them.
Okay, I'm gonna play that one more time. Hold
I
on.
wasn't expecting that.
Right? Hold on.
Daddy, what's your taxes paid for?
Oh, why, everything. Policemen, trees, sunshine. And let's not forget the folks who just don't feel like working, God bless them.
All right. Thank you, Ned Flanders.
Mike, what do taxes paid for?
Oh, everything. Policemen, trees, sunshine. And let's not forget the people who just don't feel like working. God bless them. All right, man. And that brings us to the subject of our next segment. Let's talk about tax, baby. Let's talk about you and me. All right, we are going to discuss taxes. This is the economic portion of the Mike Riley Now podcast. I played that beginning clip, because that's one of I'm a huge Simpsons fan, and that's one of my favorite episodes, and I thought that was really funny. But also, too, because I want to talk about taxes in the terms of, what do our taxes pay for? What's the deal with taxes? Taxes and not wanting to pay taxes and tax this and tax that. I mean, the country kind of revolves around this issue in one shape, form, or another. Everything comes back down to taxes. Hell, slavery came down to taxes.
Yeah, seriously.
Look
what we were willing to do to avoid taxes.
The 3/5 compromise had a lot to do with tax purposes. People are suffering because of taxes. Last night on CNN, God bless him for it, Senator Ted Cruz. It's hard for me to say that. What's really hard for me to say is President Trump. That shit does not roll off my tongue easy at all.
I just don't say it.
Yeah, it just is like, President who am I?
It's the Donald.
Yeah.
What has the Donald done today?
D-easy. Follow me on Twitter, by the way, at Mike Riley Now. Plug.
Good plug.
Yeah, nice plug. Underplug. But that last night on CNN, Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Bernie Sanders, who I'm sure most of you are familiar with, they had a town hall debate about healthcare. It was about the Affordable Care Act and all the other things that go along with it. Now, as you can imagine, you probably know who was on whose side, right? Bernie Sanders, since he has been in office, and he is, by the way, the longest running independent in the he's a Democrat now, God bless him, but he was, prior to being a Democrat, was the longest running independent in the history of the United States Senate.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Well
absolutely.
done, Bernie.
Yeah. And he has always been a staunch cheerleader for universal health care, for a Medicare for all single payer program, right? And we'll talk about that in a second. And Ted Cruz has always been for a private visitation program, and we'll talk about what his plan is too. But before we always talk about healthcare, we're not going to get too deep into healthcare. The reason I bring that up is because the big question was, right, Ted Cruz was, Bernie Sanders thinks that we should have a system where if you're a United States citizen, much like your police, much like your fire protection, your healthcare just comes automatically. You get healthcare if you're a citizen. Now, it's like that in probably every other developed country in the world. In Canada and the United Kingdom, where Charlie's from, in Australia and places like that.
Guess my stance on it.
Works for them. But we'll talk about that in a second too. But he believes in that. And this is something the Democrats really don't bring up. The Democratic Party really believes in that. This is what the road to Obamacare was. Now, how do you cover every single American in the United States? How do you pay for that? Because right now, if you have health care, you got to pay out of your own pocket, or your employer pays for your health care, right? How do you pay for that? Well, most people ain't going to and that was the thing about Obamacare. There was an individual mandate that said you had to go in and pay your own health care if you don't have your employer pay for it. And people didn't like that. They have to be forced to pay for something. Couldn't agree more, right? That was the flaw in the Affordable Care Act. But for the record, it was the insurance companies who put that part in the law, not Barack Obama. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. And you can look that up, by the way. But how are we going to pay for it? Well, the simplest solution is this. We have to raise taxes.
Simple as that.
Bam. Bing, bang, boom. Now, I know what all of you out there in podcast, radio, and Facebook land are thinking. Hell no. You're not raising my taxes. Yeah. Raise my taxes? Nah. K through 12. Free. Right? You get a free education if you're a citizen of this country. How does that get paid for?
Taxes.
How does the government make money?
Taxes.
Bam, right? Okay. But if you go to college, cutoff point. Gotta pay for it yourself. Or you gotta go in debt.
Yeah, I'm learning all about that now.
Yeah, you gotta go in debt to go to school. Right?
Yeah.
If we just raised our taxes, right? Now,
please give me free education.
Well, and that's the thing. You just said something. That's what conservatives hate. When they hear us say it's free, they say, oh, you liberals want everything for free. Everything for free. It ain't free. We are paying for it. We're definitely paying for it. We just pay for it through our taxes. When my house is on fire, the fools that come out, not fools, but the people that come sorry, y'all. I'm graduating from my old habits. So that's what we used to say.
That's why I'm here.
That's why she's here. Yeah, if you grew up where I grew up, we used to just say that about everybody. So what are you gonna do? But the brave men and women who come and put my fire out, respectable fire people, God bless them, who come and put my fire out, they're paid for through my taxes. The police,
you don't slip them a 20 when they're done.
Yeah, or you're not on a private system. The roads, the bridges, all of these things are paid for through our taxes. Now, everybody's saying we know that already, Mike. We get that part. But I'm taxed enough, high enough as it is. Why should I pay more taxes, right? Well, look at it from this perspective. Now, I'm asking a pretty direct question here to all my listeners. Right? Are you willing to pay a little more in taxes to get a lot more in return? I'm serious about that. Right? Conservatives and libertarians and Republicans are about as anti-tax as it gets. You know, they are they swear up and down like the Boston Tea Party had to do with the Tea Act, which was a tax on the colonist tea that was coming in. And in the British Parliament, they were taxing everything to death. They were over taxation without representation. I get that. But that wasn't what the Boston Tea Party was really about. It was really more about corporate vandalism. They were fighting oligarchies. Which brings me to my next point, because they don't have to pay hardly any taxes. Now, Ted Cruz argued last night for a 10% flat tax across the board. He said, that's what I want, and I want to abolish the IRS. Ted Cruz doesn't know that he's probably should be sitting in a corner playing with coloring books, because I don't know how you would enforce collecting a 10% flat tax if you don't have an IRS to collect it. But
knocks on everyone's door, please.
Yeah, but maybe Ted Cruz can explain that one to me. I would love to hear it, because that's what the IRS does, right? They're tax collectors. But anyway, besides that point, how does our tax system work, right? We traditionally, up until about sometime in the 1970s or 80s or something like that, we had a pretty basic top-down tax system. The more money you make, the more taxes you pay. right? There was no flat tax.
It's the gospel of wealth.
It's the gospel of wealth. And I know a lot of people can't stand this shit, but that pretty much is how it was meant to be.
Like, a rich person came up with that. Like,
Yeah.
Andrew Carnegie, the Steel Fund, he wrote The Gospel of Wealth and was saying, look, I think if you have money, A, give it to society, and B, you're going to have to be taxed more.
You got to have, yeah.
It's got to work. And if the more you get taxed, the more it goes to the government, and the more the government can help everybody. Essentially.
Once you get to a specific point in wealth, it is now your duty, your responsibility to give back to society.
Who got you there?
Who got you there? John D. Rockefeller said it. You know, you make as much as you can, you give as much as you can, and you save as much as you can. Never spend as much as you can. I don't know if he said that last part, but
it was implied.
It was implied, yeah, because we all got spending problems here and there. But Donald Trump is going to cut the effective tax rate on the top 1% down to 15%, when right now they pay an effective tax rate of 32%. When they cut those taxes, the theory of it goes, well, if they save money on their taxes, they're going to take that money and they're going to hire more people, they're going to hire more workers, they're going to give back to the economy. That is the essence of trickle-down economic theory, laissez-faire economics. That, my friends, is a religious belief in the sense that it is a belief in a system that has no proof of ever working.
Yep.
You can't go around, and this is a libertarian point of view, where you rely on the goodwill of other people. Well, people are cool. People love everybody. Everybody wants everybody to succeed. So, naturally rich people are going to just give back to the community.
We've just had a Muslim ban. People don't want other people to succeed. I mean, for Christ's sake.
And if anybody can tell me once in the period of history when rich people were just that fucking cool,
yeah,
I got a bridge in Idaho to sell you.
They don't become rich by being generous.
Those are
antonyms. They don't work. They're contrasting. You become rich because you keep money close to your chest and you don't let it go, and I don't want to say stingy, but you're smart about it, and you don't suddenly have a bunch of money and go, well, now's the time,
right,
to suddenly give it all up.
And not to mention, it creates, when people have this idea of, I don't want to be taxed, I'll take my money and do what I want with it. For example, I have a lot of friends that say, I don't want the government deciding where my wealth can go. I'll open up my own university, or I'll give to whoever I want. Well, that creates, first of all, what Ted Cruz said last night, that does create a system of rationing, because therefore you get to pick who you want to give your money to, as opposed to it going to everyone, as opposed to it helping out the entire system. I'm only going to help out the Harlem basketball team, but screw the one in Queens. That's where my money's going to go. Now, if you want to do that on the side and give to charity or start your own charitable organization, more power to you. But at the end of the day, our tax dollars are supposed to be in the system of e pluribus unum, of helping us all out, we're all in this together. Now, I'll agree, our taxes don't always go to the best thing. We spend more money than we invest in this nation with our tax dollars. Right? 50 cents of every dollar you pay in taxes goes to our military, for example. Now, I'm not talking about feeding and clothing our troops, but I'm talking about things like bombs and missiles, weapons, and things that blow up and only create more terrorists. It doesn't go to things like our infrastructure, which is an investment, not spending money. Spending money is more like, I've said this before, spending money is more like buying food. Or buying clothes or things like that. Investing is more like investing in things that will pay off over time, like buying artwork, or buying good artwork, or buying or investing in infrastructure, for example. Now, what does this have to do with the healthcare law, right? There was last night, a small business owner from Texas stood up and she talked to Ted Cruz and she said, I don't like Obamacare because I can't afford it. I have to pay the premiums of my employees. I have to give them a cut of my thing. So because of that, I can't hire people and I can't do this and do that. Sanders said there's a simple solution to that. It's a Medicare for All program. Therefore, employers don't have to give their employees health care. It'll just be part of your citizenship. All you do is pay more in taxes. He didn't say it that way, but in so many words, that's the gist of it. What do y'all think? That sound and I'm not. And the funny thing about it is all the people who argue against paying higher taxes, you're paying for that shit anyway. You're paying for healthcare. You're just paying for it out of your pocket. If you pay $190 a month for your health insurance, you know, you're pretty much paying that anyway. If we take our tax rate to that, and you're not paying that much if we have an effective top-down tax rate where the top earners are taxed the most, and it trickles down from there. That's what true trickle-down economics should be. It should be a trickle-down tax economic. That's my stance on it. But I really want to know what y'all think out there, because I know taxes is the devil's word, and a lot of people feel like, oh, the money's going to go to people who don't deserve it, or we talk about this whole thing about dependency a lot and takers and all this other stuff. You know, let's really think about this. And a lot of people say, well, we can't afford another tax hike. That's not true. We live in the richest country on the face of this planet, in the history of this planet.
Yeah.
There's more money here than anywhere else in the world. There's also more guns and drugs here than anywhere else in the world.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll talk about that in another show.
Time, yeah.
America has more guns, money, and drugs than any other place on the face of the planet, by far.
Good combination, guys.
It can only lead to good things.
Yeah, right?
Right.
And going with that, I know, coming from a place that does have national health care, it's not perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect.
It's not.
You have people constantly complaining about our NHS. It's just that'll happen, but then they hear what happens in America and they're like, oh my God, thank God we have, and we take it for granted. You know, everyone complains about it and then they hear what it's like.
Right.
It's like, oh, thank God we have it.
Right. And Ted Cruz was talking about like the long lines last night and all this other stuff. I mean, there are ways to fix our healthcare system, but we need to start with making sure everybody's insured and having a more effective tax rate that benefits everyone, not just the few. All right, y'all. So that is our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless Charlie. God bless Cam out there. God bless Brooke. God bless every single last one of you for listening. Thank you to all my callers. I'm just playing. We didn't have none, but we'll have some soon. God bless everybody who tuned in on Facebook Live. Make sure you follow us on MikeRileyNow.com, YoungAngelsOfAmerica.org, and all the other things you can think of. And please remember to quote a great scholar, this democracy is not a spectator sport. We are all in this together. It starts with you. You have to go out there. You have to get involved. You have to get informed. And you got to take action. It doesn't work otherwise. All right, y'all. We will see you next Wednesday, I think. Next week, we're going to do another Wednesday show. All right. We'll see you next week.
You are listening to the Mike Riley Now podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRileyNow.com.